Hello everyone. In our previous video, we have discussed about the basics of process costing, the concept of process costing, and today we are going to solve a few questions on process costing. So, to remind you, I want to tell you that those industries where the output is going to be finalized only after passing through different levels or different stages, they are going to use the system which is known as process costing. Chemical industries, paint industries, pharmaceutical industries, rubber industries, iron and steel industries, leather industries, all such type of industries where we are going to get the output only after passing through different levels or different stages, we are able to get the final product or finished goods. So, such industries, they are going to keep their books of cost account by process costing method. So, in our previous video, we already done with the theoretical part and the conceptual part, as well as we have solved few questions also. We are going to continue from there only, and we are going to take new questions for today's lecture. So, as you can see on your screen, we have a question which said that the information given below is extracted from the cost account of a factory producing a commodity in the manufacturing of which three processes are involved. Prepare process account showing the cost of the output and the cost per unit at each stage of manufacture. The operation in each separate process are completed daily, and information said that the value at which units are to be charged to process B and C is the cost per unit of process A and A plus B respectively. So, that normally we are going to do with this method only. Then information related to expenditure is given as for process A, direct wages are 640, machinery expenses are 360, factory overhead are 200, and raw material consumed in process A is 2400 rupees of raw material, and the quantity is mentioned below that the total production was 37,000 units, and there is a wastage of 1000 unit in process A. Similarly, direct wages for process B is 1200, then machinery expenses are 300 rupees, factory overhead are 225, and then in this wastage we have 1500 units, but in process B we have opening stock of 4000 unit and closing stock of 1000 unit. In process C, total direct expenses are 2925, then machinery expenses 360, factory overhead 240, and in this process, in process C, there is a wastage of 500 units, opening stock 16,500 and closing stock is 5,500. So, this is the information given in the question. We are going to solve it. So, first of all, we are going to prepare process A account. Now, under process A, the first thing we are going to start with raw material consumed or to material. So, as per the information given in the question, to raw material consumed, the quantity is 37,000. The quantity is 37,000 in units. The amount for which is mentioned in the question is 2400. After that, we have to mention direct wages, which is 640 rupees, then machinery expenses 360 rupees, factory overhead 200 rupees. So, the total of debit side of process A account, when we talk about quantity, it is 37,000, and when we talk about the value, the amount in rupees, that is 3600. Now, as per in the question, it is given wastage 1000. So, we have to mention and the credit side by wastage. By wastage is 1000. Wastage is not going to realize any sort of amount. That is why you can see in the amount column we have to mention dash or nil, because no amount is realized because of wastage. Then you can do the total for credit side also. The total must be 37,000 in units and 3,600 in rupees. Out of 37,000, 1,000 is wastage. Out of 37,000, 1,000 is wastage. So, the actual output which is transferred to next process is 36,000. So, we can write by transfer to process B, that is in quantity 3600 and the amount is 3,600. Now, we have to calculate the cost per unit. Cost per unit can be calculated by total amount divided by total number of units produced. So, the total amount is 3,600, which is divided by 36,000 units. So 3600 divided by 36,000, we will have 0.10 per unit, that means 10 paisa per unit. Now, when we calculated price per unit or price per kg, price per ton, we know that in this question, after process A, the per unit cost is 10 paise per unit, 0.10. So now we are going to transfer this to next process, which is our process B. So on your screen you can see that under process B, first of all we have to mention to transfer from process A. How many units? We are going to have 36,000 unit and the price is 3600. Apart from this, we have a opening stock. If you can see in the check, if you can check in the question, you can find out that opening stock is mentioned. So to opening stock, number of units are 4,000 and the rate is 10 paise per unit. So for 1 unit 10 paisa, we have to calculate for 4,000 units. So for 4,000 units, the amount is 400. So to opening stock at the rate of 10 paise per unit, the amount would be 400 rupees for 4,000 units. Then transfer from process A, as I told you 36,000 units, the amount is 3600. Then expenses for process B, expenses are to direct wages, which is 1200 rupees, to machinery expenses, which is 300 rupees, and to factory overhead, which is 225 rupees. Now we are going to do the total. For debit side, quantity column 4,000 plus 36,000 becomes 40,000, and then the total of amount column we have 5,725. Now we are going to use the information which is given in the question for credit side. In the process B, we have a wastage of 1500 units. So we have mentioned by wastage 1500. As I told you just now, no amount is realized out of wastage. So in the amount column, nil or dash. Then there is a closing stock given. So we have to mention by closing stock. Closing stock is 1000 unit. What is the value of 1000 unit? 1000 multiplied by 0.10, that is 10 paisa per unit. So the amount would be 100 rupees. Now we are going to mark 40,000 in the credit side. Out of 40,000, 1500 units are wastage and 1000 is closing stock. So the remaining is 37,500. The remaining units which we are going to transfer to next process, which is process C, the total number of units are 37,500. And then out of 5,725 rupees, 100 rupees is taken as a closing stock. So 5725 minus 100, so the balance amount is 5,625. This 5,625 rupees of 37,500 unit we are going to transfer to the next process, which is process C. Now after getting this amount, we have to calculate the per unit cost or per unit amount. 100 rupees divided by 1000, 0.10 we already calculated. Then now the total amount is transferred 5,625, which is divided by the output for process B. Output for process B is 37,500. So 5625 divided by 37,500, you will get per unit cost. In this case, we have 0.15 per unit or 15 paise per unit. Now we got the amount 15 paise per unit. We are going to move to the next process, which is our process C. Begin with process C. First of all, we have to mention to opening stock, which is given in the question, 16,500 units. We know the amount, that is 15 paise per unit. So 16,500 multiplied by 15 paise per unit, we will get the amount, that is 2,475. Then from previous process, we are going to get the intake, that is to transfer from process B. To transfer from process B is 37,500 unit, and the value of 37,500 unit is 5,625 rupees. Then other expenses which are given in the question, to direct wages 2,925, then to machinery expenses 360, and to factory overhead 240. Now we are going to do the total for debit side, quantity column as well as amount column. When we do the total, the quantity column total would be 54,000 units and amount is 11,625. Come to the credit side, by wastage. In the question it is mentioned by wastage 500 rupees, in amount column dash or nil because we haven't realized any amount out of wastage. Then by closing stock, in the question it is given 5,500. What would be the value of 5500? 5500 multiplied by 15 paise, 0.15 per unit. So, when we multiplied 0.15 multiplied by 5500, we will get the amount, that is 825. Now, when we write the total debit side and credit side, the total of credit side would be 54,000. Out of 54,000, 500 is wastage and 5500 is closing stock. Remaining amount or remaining quantity we have transferred to the finished product. So, 54,000 minus 500 minus 5500, the balance is 48,000. That means 48,000 units we have transferred to finished goods or finished stock. Now, amount column. Total of amount column is 11,625, out of which the closing stock value is 825. So, 11,625 minus 825, the amount, balance amount is 10,800. This 10,800 rupees is the amount of 48,000 unit which is transferred to finished stock or finished goods. So, we have to mention by transferred to finished product or by transfer to finished stock or by transfer to finished goods. So, again we are going to calculate per unit cost. The total amount transferred is 10,800. For how many units? The total number of units are 48,000. So, 10,800 divided by 48,000, we will have the per unit cost, that is 0.225 per unit. 0.225 per unit, that would be the total cost per unit at the end of last process, which we called it as process C. So, this is the case when we are going to transfer the material from A to B, B to C. We are going to add on all the expenditure, at the same time we are going to calculate the per unit cost. We are going to solve one more question to make it more easy for us. When we are going to solve more number of questions for process costing, you people are able to solve different types of question. So, in this question you can find out that in a factory a product passes through process A, B and C. In each process 5% of the total weight put in is lost and 10% is scrap, which realizes rupees 10 per ton from process A, 15 per ton from process B and rupees 20 per ton from process C. The following further details are available. Prepare process account. Other details are given in the question as material used in ton 3,300 for A, 2,000 for B and 1,000 for C. Cost of material per ton for process A 30 rupees, for process B 40 rupees and for process C 50 rupees. Labor is 8,000, 5,000, 2,000 for A, B and C. Overheads are 7,000 for process A, 2,000 for process B and for process B we have 1,000. Apart from this, they are telling in the question that we are not going to transfer 100% of the output to next process, but in the question it is given that we have to send to warehouse 25% of our output to warehouse and 75% to next process from process A. Similarly, from process B 50% to warehouse and 50% to next process. In process C 100% to warehouse because there is no other process after process C. So, we are going to start solving this question. First of all, we are going to begin with process A. Now, first of all, we are going to start with process A, particular quantity amount debit side, particular quantity amount credit side. Under the debit side, we have to mention number 1 material. Material quantity is given in the question 3,300 and 3,300 quantity is going to be converted in amount because we are going to get the total amount column. So, we have the amount is 99,000 rupees. Then next expenditure is for labor or wages. Labor is 8,000 rupees and overheads are 7,000 rupees. We are going to do the total for debit side. So, the quantity column is 3,300 and the amount column is 1,14,000. Now, in the question it is mentioned that there is a loss in weight 5%. Always we have to calculate loss in weight on input. Input is 3,300. So, we have to calculate 5% on 3,300. 5% on 3,300 is 165. No amount is realized. So, amount column dash. Then we have scrap. In the question, scrap is given, scrap is 10%. So, we have to calculate 10% on 3300. 10% on 3300 is 330, which realize amount, right? How much? 10 rupees per unit. So, 330 multiplied by 10, we have the amount 3300 rupees for scrap. Then, in the question they are saying that you have to transfer 25% to warehouse and 75% to next process. So, we have to calculate how much to be transferred to warehouse and how much to be transferred to next process. I can show you the working note for it. Here is the working note. As we can see, the total input was 3300, out of which 165 is loss of weight. So, we have to deduct it, and scrap is 330. So, the remaining quantity or remaining tons available for us is 2805 tons. Now, as per the instruction given the question, we have to transfer in two different places. So, 25% to warehouse. So, we have to calculate 25% on 2805 tons, which is 701.25 tons. So, 705.25 tons is to be transferred to warehouse, and 75% is transferred to next process, which is process B. So, 75% of 2805 tons would be 2103.75 tons, right. So, 701.25 ton and 2103.75 ton, both of these tons are transferred to different places. One is to warehouse, another is to we are going to send it to that next process, that is process B. So, you can see again in the table, the main table, by transfer to warehouse 701.25 and by transfer to process B 2103.75. So, we have to calculate per ton amount. Per ton amount we have calculated is 39.465, 39 rupees for 0.465 per ton. So, we have calculate the value of 701.25 tons and 2103.75 tons by multiplying 39.465 ton. So, we will get this transfer to warehouse is 27,675 and for transfer to process B is 83,025. Now, we are going to prepare process B account, and here is process B account. Now, we are going to prepare process B. Particular quantity amount debit side, particular quantity amount credit side. First of all, we have to mention to transfer from process A. From process A, we have transferred quantity is 2103.75 tons. The amount is 83,025. Then other expenditure given in the question, material is 2000 quantity, amount is 80,000, labor is 5,000 and overheads are 2,000. When we do the total for debit side, we will have the quantity column total is 4,103.75 and the amount is 1,70,025 rupees, which we are going to mention in the credit side also. Then as per the question, we have loss in weight. So, by loss in weight, how much? 5%. 5% on input. Input is 4103.75. So, we have calculated 5% on 4103.75, which will be 205.1875 tons. So, 205.1875 tons is our quantity for loss in weight. No amount is realized, so then the amount column dash or nil. Then again in the question it is mentioned by scrap. Scrap is 10%. So, 10% on 4103.75 is 410.375, but this realizes the amount. So, when we multiply the amount which is realized by sale of scrap, we will get 6155.625. 6,155.625 is the amount realized by sale of scrap. Now, remaining is transferred to warehouse and transferred to next process. In this question, it is given that 50% is transferred to next process and 50% transferred to warehouse. So, now I will show you the calculation. Here is the working note. Input is 4,103.75, out of which loss of weight is 205.1875 and scrap is 410.375. So, the output remaining is 3,488.1875, which is in the quantity, and the rupees is out of 1,70,025. we have received 6,155.625. So, the balance amount is 1,63,869.375. Now, we have to calculate the percentage. First of all, we can calculate the per unit amount, which is 163,869.75 divided by the output, that is 3,488.1875. So, we will get per ton cost or per unit cost is 46.978, 46 rupees 978. Now, on the basis of which we are going to calculate the amount to be transferred to warehouse and the amount to be transferred to next process. So, 50% of 3488.1875 is transferred, and similarly 50% of 3488.875 is transferred to next process. Now, we are going to begin with process C. So, when we get the amount for process B by transfer to process C, 174.09375 units, and amount is 81,934.6875. This is transferred to process C, and in process C we are going to apply the same process or same method to calculate the cost to be transferred to finished product. So, by this way we are able to calculate the total cost which is transferred to next process or the total cost which is transferred to warehouse. So, different industries, they are going to calculate their value at the end of every process, so that they can take decision about the different process costs which they have to incur in manufacturing of any products. So, that is all for today. Thank you so much.